Good morning, folks. Good morning, family. I came to a realization yesterday. I've been had an interesting day yesterday, and a lot of times we, at least for me, there's times when I want to say we as a family, and there's times when I need to say I. I being my experience, my practical experiences in this walk of spirituality and self-awareness and who we really are, and are we this meat suit? Are we employees? Are we husbands, wives, sons, daughters? Or are we divine and sovereign beings individually? And that these labels that we ascribe to ourselves and each other are just tools of division and segregation, and they incite discord, disharmony between us all. So I'm speaking to you from my experience. Just to give you a quick preface, I got sober in 2001. It is now 2019. I did relapse in 2006 briefly, and got sober again. And I have been completely clean and sober since then, from drugs and alcohol. Now, once you remove that veil of illusion and anesthesia that the drugs and alcohol have over you, you start to see things more clearly. And while each of our journeys is very different, in sobriety, some people are quick, some people are slow. I would say I'm the former, or the latter. I'm slow. My process has been one of, I am an experiential learner. I don't learn from books. I don't learn from, truly don't learn, things may resonate with me that someone else has said, but I am an experiential learner. I must, maybe not, maybe I just need to shift the way my heart receives things. But in my experience so far, my learning comes from pain and joy. It comes from good experiences and negative experiences. It teaches me the things that I want and I don't want. And through this shift that I've been through, I've whittled away at the character defects that I believe have prevented me from having a more fulfilling, complete, whole, divine spiritual experience. And one of those things is pornography. And I don't mean just in more recent years, pornography has become it's become readily accessible. I click right on the computer, boom, you're there. There is no effort involved in finding it. No effort. Click a button, boom, fast food, real quick. So, from a very young age, pornography was always available, and I remember some of my youngest memories, pornography, there was a very large recycle station in close proximity to where I lived. And after hours, myself and a couple of my friends, we would break in there figuratively. The gate was never locked. But we would go in, and what they would do with all the paper materials is they would bundle them in huge, huge, huge bundles, probably 10 feet tall, on a pallet. And, there'd be newspapers, magazines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we would climb on top of those bundles, and they probably were thinking that they had a real problem with rats. Because we would clip those straps and release all the papers and release all the magazines and pick through them and find pornographic magazines. So let's just fast forward. So that, I don't know, 10 years old, 11 years old, somewhere around there. Fast forwarding into my early adulthood, 17, 18, 19, then we had the influx of VHS. And you had your corner video store, and then fast forward to more recent days where, boom, click a button, it's on the internet. So it was always readily, on some level, it was available. And that's something that I struggled with on a spiritual basis, especially after I came to some level of sobriety. And as the years passed and whittling away at those character defects, and coming to realizations, let's just say, some of the other things that I've, that instantaneous self-gratification of I want what I want. And I don't mean just sex, money, stuff. Cars, homes, boats, you name it. Selfishness, self-centeredness. One could even say narcissistic tendencies. Dealing with the darker shadows, the more nefarious traits, dealing with things that kept me occupied, distracted, otherwise engaged from true self. True self, right in here. From here to here to here, all the way down. The things that distracted me. And in very recent days, in the past several years, and I'm going to start with 2015, 2014, the behaviors, the act of engaging with pornography and the behaviors that are surrounding, that are closely related to watching pornography, et cetera, everything surrounding that. I don't feel the need to go into detail, but I'm sure you can use your own discernment about what I am referring to. And growing very uncomfortable with the way that it made me feel. I knew it was preventing me from moving on. It was a barrier. It was a wall. There was feelings of guilt and shame, less than, not hitting the mark. I'm not, and I'm not being flippant when I say this, but I wasn't being all I could be, and I made a choice, and I stopped those behaviors. And this was about this was 2014. 2014, and at the time I was single. I have been married twice. The first marriage ended when I got sober. I could not remain in a household with my former wife and remain sober. I don't feel the need to take her inventory, but I could not have stayed sober in that environment. There would have been no way. I love her very much. I continue to this day. I've forgiven her for her mistakes. I've forgiven myself for my own. My second marriage, we were together for 7 and married for 3, excuse me. And again, that marriage ended in someone relapsing, and I'll just leave it at that. And the behaviors that we encounter when one relapses, we kind of go right back to where we were before we got sober. And that marriage ended due to my inability to accept those behaviors in my spouse. And I'll just leave it at that. And again, I love her very much to this day. She taught me about what it meant to love and forgive unconditionally. How can that be a bad thing? How can that be a bad thing? It taught me about what I was capable of. It taught me my limitations. And these are all good things. And right now, sitting here talking to you, I have memories of that relationship and the subsequent difficulties that we experienced in our separation and divorce. And I look back on that as a learning experience. Nothing more, nothing less. I was her teacher, she was my teacher, and we basically learned all we could from one another, and we moved on. And I love her for what she taught me about myself. I continue, and I continue to love her unconditionally for wherever she's at right now. And I hold no resentment. I truly don't. You know, you walk a mile in someone's shoes and you come to understand why we behave the way we behave. So here we are, and it's 2015, and I reached that point where I find a great deal of dissatisfaction. That marriage ended in 2013. The divorce was final in 2014. In Maine, there's a law that you have to remain married for 1 year. And that's, to see if you're going to reconcile. And we did try that. We did. So 2014 rolls around, and I was lonely. My marriage ended. And when I say lonely, I still had a very strong sexual drive. And the only I want to be appropriate. The only available outlet for that drive that I was, being single, and that drive was pornography. It was not the good choice. It was not proper. And I did not want to go there, but I did. And it was very dissatisfying. It was not I missed the mark. And I've realized that that was not where I wanted to go. So let's just fast forward a little bit. 2014 into 2015, I had a brief relationship with someone who I have known for many, 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 many years. And I would consider this woman, we were friends. Like, straight up, that the guy, ladies, the guy that you've been friends with for years. Guys, that woman that you've been friends with for years and years and years and years, and you just never, you never made the connection. And maybe some of us can relate to the idea of having a romantic relationship with one of our female friends or opposite sex friends, and almost immediately realizing, oh my God, like, what do we do? Are we still friends? Yeah, we're still friends. She's moved on. She's in another relationship. Wonderful woman. We're still friends. It's weird because I grew up here. I'm going to ramble just for 1 second. I grew up in a household full of women. My father died when I was very young, and I've just kind of always maybe felt more comfortable with female friends. I don't know. More to be determined about the dynamics of that. But I've always felt very comfortable around women, and I feel like women have always felt fairly comfortable in my presence. But after that relationship, that very brief relationship, there was something going on within me that at the time I couldn't identify. And as where I'm sitting today, I understand that to be, that was the very beginnings of that scratching of the surface of what was to become my spiritual awakening. I would not refer to myself as being woke, but it was that tap on the shoulder. It was that constant, like, there's something bigger, better, and grander out here than anything and everything that you've experienced so far, and it was driving me. So here we are. I've come to a place now where I need to fast forward a little bit and get into, I'm losing my focus. What happened yesterday? I have experienced, I made a choice again. I exerted my will, and I made sure that I've been celibate and abstinent from pornography, any and all sexual type behavior. I've been abstinent for a little while. The amount of time is irrelevant. It's a choice I made, and I am content with that choice. It was the right thing to do. Celibacy and abstinence on all levels. However, the work environment that I am in is pervasive with pornography, misogynistic and pornographic vulgarities verbally throughout the course of the day. It's a predominantly male field that I work in, and 99.999% of the time I am fully capable of ignoring, deflecting. I don't engage in those conversations. I don't engage when somebody's passing their cell phone around with either a pornographic video or photographs, whatever. I turn my head. I mean, quite literally, I'll turn my head, I'll get up, I'll walk away. I leave the area that I'm in when I'm able. If I can't leave the area that I'm in, we're working. I tune out. I zone out. I pray. I meditate. I think about my friends across the pond. I think about my family. I think about my daughters. I think about my dog. I think about gardening. I change the channel. And I block out the negativity. However, yesterday was a extremely challenging day, and it seemed that there was a weakness in me. There was something shifting in me, because everything that was being said, everything that was being passed around, I didn't look, but you could hear the videos playing, the vulgarities that were being shared amongst my coworkers, and for some as yet unknown reason, I couldn't seem to block any of it out. Like I was trying, I was actively trying, like, think about something else, do something else, get up and move, do, and nothing was working. And I found myself feeling very weak, and actually it felt like an attack on a spiritual level. Oh, you think you had this, Scott? Oh, really? You thought you were flying high. You had overcome this. Tap on the shoulder. I'm right here, man. I'm right here. And you know what? Get away from me. Get away from me. I am a divine being. I am a divine spirit, and I have made my choice. I won't follow those old ways of thinking anymore. I won't do it. It didn't make the experience any less uncomfortable. It was on some levels it was frightening. On some levels it was creating actual physical reaction within me. I was beginning to feel nauseous. And my only other choice, I couldn't leave where I was. But something suddenly occurred to me that I have time off on my, I was at work. I have time off. I have sick time. I have vacation time. I have bereavement time. And the only out, wonderfully placed, the idea where it came from. Leave. Leave. You got plenty of time. People do it all the time at work. I have a doctor's appointment. I have this. I have that. Walked up to my supervisor. I'm not feeling well. And if you don't need me for the rest of the day, I have a quantity of earned time off. And if you don't need me for anything else today, I'd like to go home early. And that was my exit. Miles to go with this, and I ruminated with it. It was oppressive. It was oppressive. Images were popping in and out of my head, even as I left. It's like they latched on, and it was in my the only way I can describe it as a spiritual battle. My spirit was fighting with other spirits, battling with them. Come on back, come on back, come on back. And I was like, get away from me. Get away from me. No. Exerting my will. No. Leave me. Leave me. Or better yet, you change. If you want access to me, you can come be with me and change your way. But those thoughts and those feelings and those experiences that I was encountering, where it was tangible, it was like, wow, wake up, Scott. This thing that you're trying to overcome, or that you believed you had overcome, is sitting there right around the corner, waiting for an opportunity. You'll have to forgive me. I'm not very good at quoting scripture, pulling something out of my hat. But there is something in the Bible that where the devil is having a conversation with God. God asks him, "Where have you been? Where have you been?" "Oh, I've been going from here, to and fro around the earth, seeking who I could devour." And I'm paraphrasing, so please understand. But yesterday was one of those days where it knocked the wind out of me. It knocked the wind out of me. And it was a very humbling experience, because maybe I was feeling a little self-righteous and feeling as though I had overcome something, or I had conquered something. I may have won the battle, but I didn't win the war, in the whole big scheme of things. Today's a new day, and I'm going to put on my armor, and I'm going to walk through my day, and I have wonderful plans made with my former stepdaughters from my more recent. I'm going to be having dinner with them, and that I cannot tell you what a profound experience. I have three, two stepdaughters and a stepson, and he's out in California. I don't get to see him very often, but we do communicate frequently. He's a great guy. But I get to have dinner with my two former stepdaughters, and what they've taught me about what it means to be a man. I remember a fairly recent video that I had watched, and it was discussing how, where do we learn to be men? Where do we learn to be women? Women learn how to be women from their fathers. Men learn how to be men from their mothers. The divine union of being a guy with a lot of feminine traits. And where did I learn a lot of that? Some of the best things that I enjoy and I embrace about myself, I didn't learn from other guys. I learned from women. Qualities that reside within me. And I love that. I've been doing a lot of study about the divine feminine. And the divine feminine isn't just for men. It's for women too. That reunion of what we're missing in a male-dominated, misogynistic, vulgar world where pornography is the norm. If you don't watch pornography, or the complete and total acceptance of pornography, that it's mainstream. Oh yeah, no. It's messed up. That's not love. That's not even sex. Today's a good day. Today's the day after the battle. The dust is settled. I'm seeing things much clearer within myself, about myself, and about my awareness, my self-awareness. and wonderful conversations with some other females, with another female who is a friend across the pond, and I don't want to call anybody out, but she's beloved to me, and her insights that help me stay grounded. And we need each other, folks. I've always been someone who, I can, there's a lot of people who would have described me as stoic. You know what? No, I don't want to be stoic anymore. I need other people. We need each other. We can all learn from one another. And with that, just if you're struggling, I look back at my alcoholism, for example. Here I am, 2001, 2019. So, total combined years of sobriety, let's just say 17, because I did relapse in 2006. In my earlier years, let's just say the first 5 or 6 years, I couldn't be around alcohol in any way, shape, or form. It drove me nuts. I would have anxiety attacks. Now, I am completely indifferent to it. Completely indifferent. I am a passerby. I go to the grocery store, I go, whatever, and they have, booze in the grocery stores nowadays, at least in my area. Walk right by it. Doesn't even register. That's